Welcome back to All About Your Benjamins, the podcast, the More Than Money series. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Todd Bryant. Now, Todd's chapter begins on page 155 if you're following along at home, and the title is A Change of Retirement Plans. Let me give you Todd's background real quick. Todd is the founding partner and certified financial planner practitioner with Signature Wealth Partners in Orlando, Florida. A Florida native, he received his undergraduate degree from UCF with extensive postgraduate studies through the American College of Financial Services. He works with business owners, pre-retirees, and retirees in planning financially for life's milestones. Todd has spent the past 15 years growing his financial planning practice from scratch through referrals, community engagement, and unique marketing strategies, which as a financial advisor with his own firm, I can tell you is not an easy thing to do. Todd currently sits on the UCF Alumni Board, Citrus Club Board of Governors, Outreach Love Incorporated Board, and the All-Star Dads Board. In 2018, he advanced all the way to the quarterfinals of the World Championship of Public Speaking, which maybe he should be doing this podcast and the introductions, not me. And in 2020, he was recognized as an honorable knight at the UCF College of Business Hall of Fame Gala and the Orlando Business Journal's 40 Under 40. He lives in Winter Garden, Florida with his family, and that is everything about Todd. So let's get to his episode today. I hope you enjoy it. Leave some comments down below, and if you've not bought your book yet, what are you waiting for? Go get you a copy. Thanks a lot. Tune in, and we'll see you all in the next episode. So over the course of your 15 years, that's countless of meetings, numerous clients, some that have come and gone. What was it about this story that made you pick it for your contribution to More Than Money?
Yeah, and as you also have, Justin, there's so many different stories to pull from, and so many awesome stories of success, and then so many devastating stories we've heard over the years when things don't go that way. And for this particular story, it was really tough. Actually, my first rendition, I was like, well, maybe I'll do 5 mini stories. And as we were doing our peer reviews, people were like, no, you're not doing 5 mini stories. You're focusing on one. You got to figure it out, do one. So in that one story I chose it because it had a lot of those elements, because there was a lot of really good planning that went on, and then something really devastating that happened to them that made them have to change gears completely on what those initial plans were. And then from that, the moves they were able to make, and through delegating some of that to me to help them with these areas, we were able to put them on a path to success to lead them to where they are today.
That part of the conversation where you talk about how a devastating event happens, which we're not going to give it away, but being able to handle life's ups and downs as an advisor for your clients, I think is something that I don't know if everybody realizes how fluid we have to be as an advisors, being able to, adapt plans that we put in place because things change, whether they're dramatic or whether they're just preference changes. But that's why I feel really good about our profession, in that you look at all the stuff going on right now with artificial intelligence and how brilliant it is. That's all great, but I don't think that technology is going to be able to adapt on a plan on a fly like that for an individual, while taking into consideration all of the emotional stuff we have to balance out as well. And there's some other stories in the book that hit on that, but I've got to imagine it was probably tough for you just because you care about your clients, one, to see this happening, but then you're adjusting the plan, changing the plans, and then also guiding them and giving them confidence. How'd you navigate all of that?
Yeah, I think going back to how long we've been doing it now, and I went back and kind of did the rough estimate that I've had roughly 10,000 meetings with people on their one-on-one on their personal financial planning. And can't say that we've seen it all at this point, but we've seen enough of it to be able to have that experience. And people, they're not going to get it from a textbook or some AI bot or something like that. And really, it's the ability to sit down with people one-on-one and just spend time with them and going through all of the financial, but also all the emotional components of it. And I've unfortunately had many clients over the years pass away, not related to this story, but just being there in person with them and spending that time to go through everything, as opposed to them just having to look at a long list of 1-800 numbers that they're going to have to go through, which could take weeks, if not months, to be able to have that one person that's that go-to and be able to help them with all of those different areas. So in the case of with my story from the book, they had actually gone through that prior to meeting me, but during that period of time. And just from our initial meeting and hearing that story, it gave me a new sense of making sure that we're planning for all the good that can happen, but also some of the not so good things that could happen along the way as well.
So as you think about the story you told, the details, the things you highlighted, what's the main message you hope readers or listeners, if they're listening to the audiobook, take away from it?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this one the other day that, when I get into my car, I will oftentimes, if I'm driving more than like 30 minutes, even though I know where I'm going, I'll plug it into my GPS because, with traffic these days, you never know what's going to come up. And I kind of think about that with financial planning as well, because people might know where they want to be. They know what that destination is, but they don't know what's going to happen between now and there. So with that same GPS, it might say, oh, look, there's a better route. It's going to save you 5 minutes here. Or maybe you'll save some money on tolls if you go this direction instead. And that could happen every single time I try to go somewhere. So when we're thinking about something that's as important as that retirement or sending their kids to college or passing along a business to the next generation, whatever that goal might be, it's so important to be able to pivot and have different renditions of that plan, because financial planning is not just handing someone a big, long document with a bunch of disclosures and saying, okay, we're done. It's an ongoing process that we go through, and not only just with potentially the clients, but then also with their children at some point as well. So it's a multi-generational, ongoing process that takes a lot of time and a lot of trust to go through.
I think you just came up with some very valuable intellectual property. There's got to be something there with like your financial GPS for life or something like that. It's got to be coinable that you could go run with. So between now and when this episode drops, you better go figure that out and go trademark that and protect it. But I like that.
Yeah, literally, it's one of those things like it was like 11 o'clock at night, and kind of literally like 2 weeks ago. So I started writing all this stuff down on a scratch piece of paper.
It's a great explanation. I mean, it's a great analogy and a great example of what real planning is like. It's not a set it and forget it. From your experience, has it been mostly life events that causes the plan to change, or is it client preferences? You think about, you meet with a client at the beginning of their career maybe, or midway through. They're not the same person they are 5, 10, 15 years down. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. So to look at my plan has changed, not because of traumatic life events, but just because of personal preference. So for you, what's your experience been?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of life events, but also a lot of preferences as well. And even looking at my own business, I had certain goals and aspirations for myself. And then as I got married and had kids, and some of those things changed over time. And I know you, being a great dad in your own right, understand the importance of, man, maybe I could take that extra meeting that evening, but that's going to impact something that I would otherwise be doing with my children. So instead, I'm going to shift things around. And I've seen that happen a lot with clients where we first meet and they have these big ambitions from a financial standpoint. But then as we're getting into the personal goals, and if those personal goals involve spending more time with their family, then we need to figure out a way in which they can make all of that work. So yeah, I think it's a good mix of both of those things, but those personal preferences have definitely shifted things a lot over time as well.
So what you've described so far about your relationship with your clients and the not set it and forget it planning and the way you work with them is not what I would say the stereotype is of most financial advisors. We're still fighting the stereotype that it's salespeople, that we're going to put you in something you don't really need. It's all product based, which is why I was so excited we did the book More Than Money, because this shows you it's 29 different stories of countless of different stories out there where it's not just about that. So what is a misconception now that you have a platform, you're on the podcast, people are going to see this, they're going to listen to it. What's a misconception about us as advisors you'd like to put to sleep?
Yeah, I think that there's, whether it's they've heard something somewhere, they've watched a certain movie that portrays it a certain way, or it's salesy, like an experience that they've had that was a poor experience. I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. And I look back, one of my clients owns a couple gyms, and he kind of talked to me about one time that all the people that pay him a lot of money to go to the gym and also use him as their personal trainer, like, they could be doing all that stuff themselves. They could be waking up at 5 a.m. They could be eating right, and they could be doing these certain workouts, but they pay him for the accountability. And I think the accountability of what we do is so important and so impactful because, yes, people could figure it out on their own and they could, read a textbook or a YouTube video, who knows what they might find there. But having that accountability of working with us one-on-one and us getting to know them and their values and their mission and their goals is really something that is not really portrayed elsewhere of how we can benefit people. And to be able to delegate that, for a lot of people, it helps them to sleep better at night, knowing that someone that has walked the walk already, been doing it long enough to know what we're doing, but also not going anywhere anytime soon, can be there for the next few decades to take care of their family. I think that's something that normally people are not going to see.
I think it's a great point. I think it's also up to the client to determine, is the advisor providing the value that they seek? Meaning they may have a friend that works with a financial advisor for one reason, but their needs are another. And unfortunately, advisors in our profession really love to talk about each other's business models and what's right, what's wrong. When at the end of the day, what's really most important is we're taking care of clients and we're transparent with how we are compensated so that then the client can determine, hey, the value that I'm giving to Todd monetarily is being more than reciprocated with what he does for me. And it, there's no right way to say it is. For some, it might be accountability. For others, maybe I have no understanding of investing in money, or I understand it all, but going back to your preferences, I don't want to spend time doing it. I want to go spend those couple hours a month to manage my money. I'd rather spend that with my kids. I'd rather have somebody else do it. So I think that's a great point. I also think it brings up that, as you're going to see throughout the book, there's a variety of types of advisors for you to find what's the right relationship, fee structure, service model for you as the consumer. It's not one size fits all, which I think is a great thing for the consumer at the end of the day, which again, one of my hopes for the book is I want people to see that you may not think you fit a certain profile that for so long has been talked about. This is what financial advisors want. You are a profile for an advisor who wants to help you. You just have to know where to look and find them. So I think that's a great misconception. Before we move on, knowing that Hollywood does not treat us very nicely because it's not fun to show somebody who does a good job for their clients, what's your guilty pleasure movie when it comes to finance?
Boy, that's a good question. I think, early on we had obviously Wall Street is the classic, and then we had Boiler Room that came out. One that I really like, and I think it's about 10 years old now, and it was on HBO. It was the one Margin Call. Yeah, so that's one where, and I don't know if I only like it because of being in finance, and maybe other people don't, but that's one where if that's on, it's okay, I got to stay up an extra hour so I can watch this one.
Margin Call, I think it's a hard one to pick as well. Boiler Room is one of my favorites. There's a lot of great quotable lines, but I remember watching that numerous times in college before I even knew that I was going to be in finance. Margin Call is really good. I think that it is not so much bad on financial advisors as it just shows what really happened going into the great financial crisis, which shows the greed of Wall Street. I still love the one I will never pass up, and I watch periodically, is The Big Short. I love that movie. I love the book, but I just love the movie because it's entertaining, and it's the same subject matter of Margin Call, just a totally different take on it. But for the most part, the only finance related movie I think shows a positive spin on financial advisors I can think of is The Pursuit of Happiness, which it's more than finance. I think finance plays a small part of that movie, but that one shows a great story. I make the boys watch that every beginning of the year. It's like a New Year's Day movie that we watch just to kind of, as best as I can, level set them and make them realize that, hey, you notice this time where they're sleeping in the bus stop or the subway bathroom? Look at all you have. So anyways, there is one I think has a little bit of good to it. But we'll get back to more than money and get back to your chapter because that's why everybody's tuning in, not to hear my movie takes. So staying along the lines of kind of more personal questions, I like for advisors to be transparent. We're human beings and we have relationships with money. What's your best financial decision?
Yeah, and financial decisions, we make them every single day. And it's, do you swing by Starbucks for that $5 drink, or you make coffee at home? Yeah. So I look back on a financial decision, and knowing that you're interviewing the other authors for the book, I also want to be a little more unique on this one. So my best financial decision came my junior year, and it was on spring break, which, I don't know of anyone else who could say that they made their best financial decision on spring break. And without going into too depth in the story, we were on a cruise, and we had at least 50 of us from our school that I went to and another school in Florida, and maybe even more than that. And everybody was having a great time. And these two brothers that are friends of mine, every day they went down and they played bingo with all of the old people that were on the ship playing bingo. And the very last day, it's the day at sea, so everybody's up on the deck having fun, hanging by the pool. They're like, all right, we got to go. It's bingo. They're like, Todd, you should come with us. Come with us. It's jackpot bingo. I was like, what's the jackpot? He said, it's over $5,000. So I was like, well, okay, that's interesting. I'll go down there. So he and I split a ticket together, and we ended up winning the jackpot bingo. Wow. They took us down to the bottom of the ship. They counted out cash. It was like $5,180 or something. And that night we did, buy some drinks for people and spent some at the bar. But I took $2,000 out of my $2,500 that I wanted my share. And at the time, CDs were playing pretty well. And I remember investing that into a CD. And a couple years later, got into my career. My first full year in the career was 2008. So you can imagine how well that was going for me. I was 23. I looked like I was 13. It's 2008, and had some personal things happen that year as well. So I had to basically go through all of my money that first year, and I dipped into that $2,000 I had made from bingo. Mm-hmm. And literally, without that $2,000, that was the difference of me going into a different career completely, because I would have failed out. So that ended up being that decision to save that money that I won on spring break. Made me through with my career, and otherwise we wouldn't be doing this interview right now.
That's a great story. I'm not going to comment on it. It's just so good, leave it as it is. So the question you didn't know that was coming is the flip side of that coin. And I've been trying to reword it so that it doesn't bring about like shame towards money. But what is the less than ideal money decision you made that taught you the biggest lesson? A polite way of saying what's your worst money decision, but I don't want to go that direction.
Yeah. Let's see. I'd say one that's more current. Yeah, I could probably look back and, maybe later tonight I'll be like, oh man, this would have been a better answer. But first thing that comes to mind is throughout my career now, probably the same thing with you up north, I get hit up for people with custom suits all the time. And I would always just say, no. And I used to have to wear a suit to work. My first firm, we were required to wear shirt and tie every day. So I couldn't afford custom suits for those several years. So I finally got to the point where, I could afford them. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll splurge a little bit and get that done. So in January of 2020, I bought my first set of custom clothing. Mm-hmm. And then I worked from home most of the year, wore sweatpants underneath that. I'm wearing shorts right now, as a matter of fact. So I have very rarely worn the actual clothes that I finally splurged through. And I was like, you know what? The one time I actually splurged for those clothes, and now I don't wear suits anymore because the world has changed since COVID. And I'd much rather be wearing, on the very few days it's cold in Florida, my financial advisor sweatshirt that I've got from you. So yes. I'd much rather be wearing something more comfortable. And then I think the clients, especially in Florida, a lot of them play golf and stuff. So having the polo shirt on gets the job done. So that's the best I can come up with for now on that. It's not as good as my spring break story, but
I think it's a good one, and I think it has lots of little segues that I'll try to be short on. One, it incentivizes you to keep that shape of 2020, so that if you need to wear that suit, it still fits. Like you, I have one custom suit that I got probably 10 years ago, and I will tell you this: there's something special about putting on a custom suit. So I understand why people want it. But I don't wear suits anymore, and I don't think I could fit into the pants of that one as I once could. But the other segue I was going to go with it was that there are these things that would be not the right financial decision on a textbook, but for whatever reason, they are valuable to us. So an example I would give is I get my haircut every Friday. That's not a necessity. I used to go every 2 weeks since high school. I've always appreciated and enjoyed getting a good haircut. I have a great barber. And I just told myself when I get to a certain point in my business, every Friday, 11 o'clock, I'm going to get my haircut. And it's, I pay more for my haircut than most people will, but I sacrifice other areas that people spend money so that I can be able to do that. So the point of that little ramble, and I'll pull this back in to wrap up, is that, going back to I didn't want to have that question be something where it brings shame around money. There's plenty of money shaming out there, the Starbucks examples and all those things. But at the end of the day is If you have a plan and you're living within your means and you splurge in one area that makes you feel good and it's valuable to you, then there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you have to find that balance between living and planning for the future and enjoying the moment as well. So if you ever got back into suits and you picked up a second custom suit, I'm sure you're offsetting it somewhere else so that it all works itself out. So, but yeah, I think that's a good example. And it's funny how those things work, that you think you want something, and then when you finally have it, you realize, it wasn't what I really thought it was going to be. Yeah. So as we kind of bring this on the tail end, this was a lot of investment on your part as far as time and energy, writing it the first time, revising it, working with the groups to get it in. What made you want to participate in More Than Money?
Yeah, for the first many years of my career, all I ever heard was the word no. And it was, you have to call X amount of people, and you're going to hear no this many times before you get to one yes. And what I've struggled with really the past 5 years is my ability to say no to others, because for those first couple of years, just anybody that has a checkbook and a heartbeat can become a client. And then eventually, as our firms grow, we can only take on certain types of clients and certain types of couples. So as I try to help as many people as possible, but also learn when to say no, I realized that eventually I can only have a certain amount of clients before it starts taking away more time from my family, which is my goal, to be with them. So in writing this book, the thought was, between myself, but also the reach of 29 other people as well, that we can really get the word out there and in one way or another be able to help more people and either give them some sort of an inspiration. Maybe they're going through something similar to what they've heard of a story in the book, and here's how they got out of that. Or just to be able to better educate themselves on what's possible, or even how our career works for somebody who is thinking about getting into our career. So I felt that it was a way in which, because you and I are very limited with how many people we can see on a one-on-one basis, on a weekly basis, but if us and all those other advisors can get the word out to the masses through this book, it was a great opportunity to continue to help people without having to tell people no, and give them that opportunity to learn.
I think it's great. I think we all have an obligation, whether it's directly with our clients or indirectly through doing podcasts, writing blogs, writing articles, writing books, to share the knowledge that we have, just to get it out there. I look at it as it's planting trees. So maybe somebody who reads this book, as you pointed to, realizes, I do need a financial advisor because my situation's like that. I didn't know that meant I needed help. Or somebody wanting to get into the career sees, hey, the path I thought I had to go down, there's all these other ways to be an advisor, work with clients. That's one of the great things about this book that I love so much, is I genuinely think it's for everybody. Not because I wanted to sell a bunch of copies, and just remind everybody, all of the proceeds on the AGC side of the book are going to organizations within our profession. So Todd's not getting any financial gain out of this. The AGC's not, I'm not. It's all going to organizations like BLX and the Foundation for Financial Planning to try to make our profession better by pouring back into it. So I think that the book does hit on something for everybody, which is really, really cool. And the book would not be as special as it is without your chapter. So I just want to take this moment to thank you, Todd, for taking time away from the family, from your clients, to be able to write this, to be able to come on this podcast with me to help kind of promote it and get more people to find out about it. Because it would have been a good book without your chapter, but it wouldn't be complete. And this is the version of this book this one's supposed to be. So thank you for your contribution.
Yeah, and thank you, Justin. I mean, if without you and Taylor and the work that you guys have done, then definitely wouldn't have ever happened. So thank you for everything you're doing.
It's not all about you on this episode, but I appreciate it. All right. Well, hey, man, I will let you get back to your day. I know you've got a busy day of client meetings. Everybody, thank you for tuning in to this episode and all the other episodes you paid attention to. If you have not got the book yet, head to Amazon or your favorite bookstore. More Than Money. Todd's chapters begins on 155, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Yes, A Change of Retirement Plans, 155. So go make sure you check that out. And thank you for tuning in again, as I said already once. And remember that everything in finance is more than money. Personal finance is more personal than it is finance. So the title of this book is perfect. Don't forget, it's more than money. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next episode.